History will forget you.
A gift from the goddess. I feel the power rise within.
Gain stronger.
The Tyler estate has sent me.
I raise the bull snake high.
I'm surprised this fits me.
No one can withstand my will.
Thank you. So satisfying. This is worthy of me. Death to our enemies!
This is just lovely. I never tire of toys. Ah, how delightful. I love this part.
I will kill them all.
You won't feel a thing.
No one will mourn you.
Those who abuse magic will be stopped.
I feel like I could shatter mountains.
Eclipse!
No one can survive my wrath.
My cause is just. My blade is cruel.
Share the light of agony.
It is an honor to be slighted by me. Die, peasant. Death comes for you.
I can go anywhere the moonlight touches.
This is perfect for this task. Thank you.
My power is not to be trifled with.
My enemies will soon fall. No one can harm me. A lovely bomb. Barely lifted a finger.
No target escapes me.
I fear no fire.
I accept this offering. All will kneel before me.
this look easy. Don't think you're safe.
For the glory of Stonehorn!
You thought you could stand against me?
The power!
This warms my heart.
You really get me, don't you?
Be silent.
Where are my manners?
The Tyler estate has sent me.
They're not ready for me.
None can challenge me!
Fifteen seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining.
The grave suits you.
In life you are nothing. In death you find purpose.
Time to even the odds.
Sorry, it's not personal.
Well, we're slightly sorry. My will shall not be denied. elegant.
Befitting a member of the Dark Moon.
Be silent.
You've earned my respect. I'll make good use of this. Who doesn't love a good smite?
This will come in handy.
A storm's coming in!
Fifteen seconds remaining.
There's no one I can't kill.
This is fitting of a man of my talents.
Die for me.
Ready for anything?
This isn't going well for you, is it?
Peekaboo.
No one is beyond my reach.
Think you could get the drop on me? You're in my sights.
I must strengthen my resolve.
Gaze on Selene power.
just what I was looking for.
The sisters trained me well.
Mechanics properly function. Naofumi keeps getting new functions for his shield, but we never get to see him use much, if any of them. He just sort of has them for future battles, like the MacGuffin that comes in handy with just the right shield for the situation that they just happen to pick up off screen. We haven't even really, by this point, explained what the shield hero is exactly. So, like, what's his purpose or his place in the group of heroes? Are there other places in the world besides the country they started in? And what I thought would have been super important for Naofumi to try and find out around this time, what is the history of the shield hero and why people against him even before he showed up? The slightly more frustrating thing in hindsight is that most of these questions aren't even answered after the whole first season. But instead of any of that, the pacing of the story suffers because we keep trying to skip ahead to what it feels like are the more interesting bits, without realizing that, at least for me, that what Shield Hero thinks is important storytelling is the same kind of thing that enrages me as a viewer.
That's just a taste of what's to come.
Which leads us to our second point. Naofumi
No tower
is an asshole. What is the purpose of the main character, especially in an action series such as this? The main character is one who the audience is supposed to either relate to in experiences or at least show empathy toward and want to cheer for. When our main character eventually finds themselves against impossible odds, we, the audience, want to be able to cheer them on, to hope and pray for their success, even if, well, of course, the good guy's gonna win in the end, but that fact doesn't matter, because it's the willpower and gumption of our hero that wins us over. But I didn't get that with Naofumi. Like at all. Hell, when a new villain shows up to utterly smack down the heroes into the dirt, I should not be cheering for her, pleading, yes, please, just end this already. And no, I'm not biased just because her name is Glass. This is like walking into a showing of Jaws, just to cheer for the shark. Like, you can do it, but it's in no way what the creators intended. Like, don't get me wrong, I can see why... I can see why many people sympathize with Naofumi and why the show wants me to be sympathetic. He got dealt a bad hand. Nothing really goes right for him, he's ridiculed at every turn, and the story against him becomes stupidly predictable in a way that is sighingly obvious. Like anytime Naofumi is having a good day, that exact scene leads into a brand new horrible situation where the world is out to screw him. And the question of why is one that the show pretty much refuses to answer in any satisfying way. The king of the land has a bone to pick with him from almost day one, seemingly with some kind of history or belief that the shield hero is responsible for something tragic in his family, but the story, at least in the show so far, never wants to explain this. Malty is the first real antagonist for the series, maybe? Both because she steals all of Naofumi's belongings and also begins his initial fall into disfavor by falsely accusing him of sexual assault. But her motivations are never really explained. After the accusations, she ends up joining the Spear Heroes party as his second in command, and she ends up wrapping him around her little finger to help achieve her desires for more power among the nobility and potentially the crown itself. But nothing makes it clear that framing Naofumi was necessary, any of that. And her antagonistic attitude towards him just comes off as trite and forced. Her schemes almost become laughable by how cartoonishly evil they sound, and the only real explanation the show gives us is, well, there's no other antagonist, and we don't want to treat the waves as this evil force without a face, so here's this bitch. Now, it also doesn't help that virtually everybody else in this show is an asshole too. The other heroes keep moving on a scale from just oblivious to negligibly incompetent. Naofumi makes a comment at one point that they treat saving the world like it's a video game. That's pretty much dead on. Their behavior both to the mission, their party, and each other is recognizable to anyone who's been in a hardcore MMO raiding team before. And not the parties that actually get world firsts, which is half the problem. From the moment they take 2 steps into this world, they have an air and attitude like they know exactly what they are doing. That they are the best people for the job, and that everybody else should just bow before their awesomeness, because they're the heroes. They get it set in their mind what the best way to do something is, and they will smack their faces into the wall continually, despite evidence to the contrary. They have gaming knowledge and experience, sure, but I get the feeling that they are far more used to following guides of other gamers that other people have created and then reiterating that back to their party like they came up with the strategy in the first place. They're like the guy who shows up to a blind run of a Savage Raid having already seen a walkthrough and lambasts everybody else for not seeing the obvious mechanics that they themselves just innately knew. Which is all bullshit. Problem being, in this particular case, there's no guide for them to follow. So they muddle their way through, and of course take all the credit at the end. The second wave had them be completely incompetent, and helped with exactly zilch in defeating both the actual boss and Class when she makes her initial appearance. You'd think that this would be a sobering experience for them, telling them that perhaps their current strategies need improvement, and that if a guy without a weapon who's under-leveled to boot could do so much better than them, that something needs to change. That they needed to, what's the words? Get good. But no, they don't change. If anything, they double down. When the third wave comes around, we see them get blasted away, and then they need to be saved by their NPC party members. Only to, of course, infuriatingly waltz up at the end, expecting the good loot. Several characters state throughout the series that the 4 heroes need to team up to even have a chance to save the world. But at least in this first season, having not looked at the manga or the light novel, there was no concrete evidence shown that that is a winning strategy at all. But how does everybody else being an asshole make Naofumi an asshole? Is he not just a victim of circumstance? Like almost every action hero before him overcomes adversity to prevail against evil? Or something like that? True. Yes, that does happen. But he does it in the most spiteful and begrudging way possible. Now this is where, and why, I feel like my enjoyment of this show is hampered compared to maybe actual fans of the series. Because I have particular notions as to what a hero is, and roughly how a hero should act. While they're not as rigid like a D&D alignment type rule where one expects hero to be lawful goody-goodies, and I also don't deny the role that anti-heroes can have in stories, there is a particular way I expect heroes to take the high ground when possible. Naofumi is the kind of guy that goes low at every opportunity. Again, the argument in his favor is that most of the time he is only responding to the people with the same level of antagonism that is shown to him, and why should he attempt to be respectful or show any level of decency when he himself is given none? Why take the high ground when he can go low, get what he wants, and then still have the satisfaction that he was able to toss that last little bit of extra dirt? And if you want to go that way, sure, but for me, that's why I can't relate to him. Why I can't cheer for him and why there came a point when I stopped looking at the actions of those against him with the belief that they were just being completely unfair, and just started thinking, yeah, that's rough, buddy. Because Naofumi has already shown me that there is a really good possibility that if he had the power and ability from the get-go, he'd probably be just as spiteful as those that he's against. He just never seems to have the upper hand.
There's no escape.
Now, I want to somehow think positively for a moment. I also like to think that a character, under the right circumstances, can be redeemed through their actions. I'd like to think that someone who started off as an absolute asshole can properly turn into a half-decent human being by the end. There are plenty of examples throughout popular culture where real villains and antagonists can become, if not lovable heroes, at least understood entities that even if we can't see why they are evil and understand that they can't ever be good, we don't fault them so much as faulting the experiences through which they went through to get to where they are. Redemption arcs are very much a well-known thing, so I'd like to assume that one of the reasons why people find enjoyment with this series is because, unlike me, people can forgive actions that Naofumi makes because a future redemption is presumed. That his actions towards Raphtalia and Philo end up changing his attitude for the better, so that eventually, when distanced far enough from the elements of the world that gave him so much grief, that he can slowly, over the course of the story, become a better person. But in this case, it's not something the story had anywhere near enough time to showcase. While I can be optimistic and think that our recently announced seasons 2 and 3 will be able to take a semblance of character redemption and properly put that into place, not just for Naofumi, right, but for the rest of the heroes as well, so that they can also eventually become, one big team and save the world, I have nagging suspicions that it won't happen this way, which is the underlying issue that I think really factors in to if you are likely to both watch and enjoy this series, as well as look forward to more of the show being adapted. There are plenty of people who dropped the show after the first 3 episodes, or didn't even start the show at all, because they heard what happens to Naofumi, they heard how he reacts to it, how the show and the characters frame him both narratively and literally, and how the series tries to set itself apart from others in the genre. And I just think that there is a line for most people on how far a character can go before they are considered irredeemable, and for many, Naofumi and Shield Hero as a series cross that line almost instantly. But there are others who can get through the series and either believe that a kind of redemption for Naofumi is in the cards, or believe that he has been completely justified since the beginning. Their line is a little further out. Maybe a lot further out. And the show hasn't or may never cross the line for those people. But I can't speak for them. I can only speak for my own personal opinion on the series and whether I am looking forward to more. And that's something which I can at least say I'm not excited for more Shield Hero. But I also don't carry the same rage and frustration towards it that I did at the beginning. I am of the mindset that even if Naofumi gets redemption or moves in that direction, then there's still plenty about the world of Shield Hero that stops it from being an enjoyable show. Outside of Naofumi's party and really the proper otherworldly antagonists, there is almost no one in the supporting cast I care about. The other heroes are constantly acting in idiotic ways, and in fact, my opinion of them has only worsened with every appearance. The Queen's actions and choices have been extremely questionable, and even if I can come to like Naofumi, which is an extremely hard sell, then I still might want him to fail anyway, because I keep finding myself cheering for the bad guys. So really, that's my problem. I just don't care enough. So what would I say that you should watch instead? Oh boy, I am not sure. Like, there are plenty of other shows in the genre that I think do similar things, but do them better, like Log Horizon or even ReZero. So check those out if you haven't. Really though, I think one recommendation that I have might seem a bit out there.
You're in my sight.
But if you haven't watched Bokurano yet, I highly recommend it. Mostly because when Shield Hero has been giving us this tiny taste of where it's going with Glass and her party against Naofumi and the heroes of his world, I can't help but think the whole thing sounds very similar to something that Bokurano did. Just, you know, nowhere near as good. So while Bokurano is far more drama and mecha focused, the events that happen to that world and those elements might play a factor in Shield Hero's future plot.
15
So
seconds remaining.
that'll be a good comparison if and when Shield Hero does indeed go down that route. If I've interested you in Shield Hero enough so that you want to check it out yourself and form your own opinion, which is possible, then you can check it out over Crunchyroll. Also, should you prefer the manga or the light novel upon which all of this was based, perhaps to see if that would give you a different outlook on the material as a whole, both of them are available from our good friends over at Bookwalker. There will be a coupon code in the description for first-time users of their service, should you require it, so please check that out. I am very, very sorry to people that love Shield Hero the Pieces. I know that you're out there, and I don't think worse of you, but there are just things about it I can't get over, that I can't forgive, and while I am leaving it open for perhaps the later seasons to impress me, I am really not optimistic. But I'll give it a shot. Why is that? Because I have the support to be able to do that from the wonderful people who support me over on Patreon. Man, that was a horrible segue. Specifically, though, I want to give particular shout-outs to patrons Hector Montemayor, Siri Yamako, Ryfen Bonaparte, Rune Jacobson, Calhoun Boy, and Richard Bradley for being especially awesome. You guys are
I'm the greatest marksman of all
so
time.
that is it for me. Feel free to go down in the comments and let me know how wrong I am. Tweet at me too. I sure as hell won't block you. And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, watch more anime. Stay frosty.
So if it's all the same to everyone, I'm going to be recording my impressions of the currently airing shows from this point forward on probably this couch or wherever I happen to be. And instead of waiting until I've seen all of the shows that are out and then making a video where I sit down and talk about all of them from memory, I'm going to be talking about each show just as I watch it. As soon as I watch an episode or catch up on a show if I'm behind on it, I'll break out the camera and record, and then just every time I have enough clips essentially to make a, we'll say 20-minute video, because that seems like the length people like these things to be, not too much longer than that, yeah, I'll just, every time I reach that amount of time, make another video. That way, you don't have the problem of if I, don't watch, like let's say I watch 5 out of the 6 new shows, new episodes that I'm supposed to watch and then never get around to watching the 6th one, that video gets pushed back farther and farther, and that's why I fell behind last season. So, this might be a little bit more scattershot. You'll just be hearing about whichever shows I happen to have watched, but since I'll be probably keeping it to 3 or 4, maybe 5 shows of video, I'll put them all in the title. So you'll know exactly what I'm going to be talking about in each of these videos. So, the first show that I'm going to talk about in this one is Assassin's Pride. And this show, I remember watching the trailer and thinking it looked like generic trash. And it is, but it's weirdly good and in really unexpected ways that are more difficult to explain, to a point where I almost think this would be worth doing like an actual analysis video on. Like in stark contrast to doing Ari Ferreira, like showing you how you could do an incredibly generic, dumb, light novel adaptation really artfully and, just by crafting it well and through audio-visual presentation, which is like really the power of adaptation. I would be shocked if anybody who's a fan of whatever the source material of this is was disappointed with this show. I don't know if they've changed anything majorly, but like, this is one of those rare examples where you feel like they used the medium of animation to enhance the storytelling. And, you know, like, that's what the fucking point of doing this should be. So just to explain, I mean, I don't know much about the original. It's listed as a novel on Mal, but it's clearly the same type of content as would be found in a light novel. And it's along the lines of something like Absolute Duo, or particularly Chivalry at Magic High School. Chivalry of a Failed Knight. Jesus Christ, I combined that with the regular at Magic High School. They're all fairly similar. The Asterisk War also kind of falls into this genre of the magic fighting school. A place where people, a world where there's the existence of some kind of mana, some kind of spiritual force that you can manipulate in unique ways to fight with, and you know, it's a very video gamey kind of storyline. It appeals to, you know, people who like grinding and spec sheets, I guess. But these books tend to be about a main character, you know, getting stronger and fighting their way through kind of like tournament setups a lot of the time, particularly in Asterisk War and Chivalry of a Failed Knight. I don't know as much about Absolute Duo because I only watched the first episode of that show. And even that show had like kind of ambitious animation in it, where it had like, you know, it had above average Sakuga basically for, you know, comparison to those other shows in the genre. But Assassin's Pride, not only does it have some decent Sakuga in it, granted the fight direction is fucking nonsense, but not in a bad way. Just in the way that, like, everything in this is ridiculously over the top. The main character is just batting away bullets with his sword right from the get-go. Like, you know, a flash of like 6 of his same sword on the screen at the same time, blocking bullets and everything. So like, the action is readable and it's well animated. It's just ridiculous. So like, I can't call it like great choreography in the sense that there's not much tension in the battle scenes. It's the main character's just tearing through everything. But it looks, you know, ridiculous because he's just blocking bullets from all angles, and you know, nonetheless, for what it is, it's entertaining enough. And I think it's, you know, if I was younger and thought that kind of combat was badass, I think I would have greatly enjoyed it. I just realized that my tripod is just like leaning on the couch. So yeah, the action is fine, and the character designs are, like, they're very generic. They're almost kind of 2000s-ish, and the color design is very weird. Like, the outfits they wear are, the girls in particular are wearing, like, borderline lingerie. Even the school uniforms are weirdly, like, clingy fabric, where it's like, they're wearing, like, low-cut, you know, like almost negligee-esque like fabric. Some of them are showing their midriff too, so it's like they're barely wearing anything on top. And then they're wearing like booty shorts, you know, like super short shorts. And then like a little jacket that just kind of covers their arms. So it's like you basically, like, if not for the jacket, they would just look like they were wearing almost nothing. Like they would look like they were going to the club, you know? But they're just wearing these jackets to make it slightly modest, and this is their school uniform, so like most of the characters are wearing this. I mean, it looks good. It makes the girls look cute, even though like a lot of them have like extremely flat chests. But you know, that's just the way this be, I guess. But yeah, like the uniforms are interesting. The main character is wearing this fucking odd color combination. He's got like mostly dark blues and black. But then like these highlights of really light blue. But he's like, it looks kind of vaguely fashionable, but the man's an assassin. Like, the idea of him wearing all this dark blue is that he's meant to blend into the dark, but he has these light blue highlights just to make it, you know, I guess look better to some degree, or just stand out more. But it's still strange, so I couldn't decide how I felt about his design. There was also a girl who was wearing like all pink with similar blue highlights and similarly like you know, an outfit that had a lot of components but still managed to be skimpy. So like, I don't know, the designs are interesting. I definitely think they're attractive and on some level, and that they present some fairly interesting outfits. And the reason I'm diving into the fashion sort of so much is that this show, I don't think is made for men explicitly. I think that this show is very much trying to have cross-gender appeal. And there have been a number of things like this. You know, we get some of these light novels or manga more often that have like a strong central male and female character. Like, think of like Love is War, you know, where like that show is just as easy of a pitch towards men or women as long as you keep the fan service to like like, as long as you make sure that the girls are hot in a way that girls would also be interested in, like, you know, cool fashion and like, you know, getting to dress like you're going to the club, essentially. Like, I don't think the girls wear anything in this that like a girl wouldn't wear necessarily in real life, and they're interesting things that maybe would be fun to draw, you know, as well.
Good.
So like, the characters, you know, the girl, she like is basically busts her ass super hard trying to become a strong fighter because she's from like a noble family, but she has no latent magical abilities. And like in this world, everybody fights and uses magic. So no matter how good of a physical fighter she is, mana is just like so much more powerful than fighting, that even like the weakest mana user can just fucking destroy you if you are a physical user. And it's interesting because just coming at this from a database perspective, for me as an otaku autist who thinks about things in this metatextual way, this is a place on the database I don't think I've seen before. And maybe other people have, because I don't watch a ton of shit like this. But like, you know, I think of Zero no Tsukaima, and how in that show, Louise has no magical ability. She also has no fighting ability, and it's more just like everything she does just goes horribly wrong. And she has a similar kind of pride in her family name and like wanting to become a great magician to make up for the, you know, to make up for her sort of disgrace. But like, she doesn't really get better, and at least not early on. As far as I know, she never becomes like a great magician or anything like that. It's more that her relationship with the main character helps her through. But in this show, we explicitly already have the main character has been given magical powers by the main guy. Like, he is he is super powerful. Like, nothing has shown up yet that could even remotely pose a threat to him or fuck with him at all. So like, if there's going to be an enemy who is strong enough to like keep him at bay, you know, then maybe we'll get to see this girl defend him or something. I have no idea. Defend people. You know, but right now she's not very powerful just because of the nature of this world, in spite of being a good physical fighter. But like, she's presented as a very heroic character in a sense that she like really tries very hard, and like I don't know if it was her father or whoever who just has her get the shit kicked out of her every night by like random monsters, just as a way of trying to awaken her power. Like, they're trying to experiment with seeing if they can make her you know, become a powerful mage by way of beating the shit out of her. And so since she's taking this beating all the time, there's like a certain nobility to the fact that she's trying so hard, you know, which is kind of what inspires Assassin Boy to save her, even though he was apparently supposed to kill her, and he was justifying it to himself by saying that like, because her life is so miserable, she deserves to die. But like, when she sees just how hard, when he